If you're watching this video, you were probably just given access to the Department of Geoscience events feed. I just wanted to walk you through today how to set up events in that feed and how you access it. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is go to today.wisc.edu, and this is where all of the events for campus are going to appear. These are submitted by pretty much anybody on campus with an account. And you'll want to click up here in the top right hand corner, submit an event. If you're logging in for the first time, it will have you put in your net ID and password, and if you have the two-factor authentication set up, then you'll have to authenticate it a second time. Anyway, you'll come in here, and if you're logging in for the first time, you won't see any events because this is where all of your events that you've submitted will appear. I'm not sure if this appears on everyone's account or just mine, but if you go up here to the top right hand corner and click Department, you should see some information about the Department of Geoscience. If you don't, that's okay. Here you can see all of the current users who can submit events. And I've also set up some department feeds, which I'll talk to you about in just a moment. Now, if you're going in here and wanting to add an event, you go up to the top right-hand corner and click Add Event. And this form is pretty self-explanatory. You'll just want to include a title for your event. All of these boxes are optional except for the title. That's the only one that's required. So you'll just have to put in a title, subtitle, description. You can leave the cost blank if there isn't one. For most of our department events, there probably won't be a cost associated. And then you'll want to include a URL for that event if you have something that's relevant. For example, I recently set up an event for an Association for Women Geoscientists meeting, and the URL I included was a link to the Facebook event, since a lot of our members are on Facebook. So you can just include a URL for whatever's relevant. This box right here is actually pretty important. You can decide whether to make your event available to the campus-wide event feed. So like on that homepage at today.wisc.edu, if you want it to appear there, you can leave this box checked, or you can unclick it if it's something that's pretty much limited to just our department. You can decide not to share it with the campus. It's up to you. Then you'll want to go to date and time, and chances are you probably don't have an all-day event, so you'll want to leave that checked no. And then you'll just want to put in information for when that event starts. And if it has an end time, you can click yes here and include your end time. There's also some information here on creating a series based on that event. I can show you how to do that in just a moment. And then you'll want to include a location. Again, this is not required information, but it's usually helpful if people know where to go. When I click this, I see a series of locations that I've used in the past. I'm not sure if you'll see the same selection, but if you don't, adding a location is pretty simple. You just click Add New Location, include the room number or the name of the room. Like if we're using Klein Lounge, I'll say Klein Lounge. I'll give the room number, which I don't remember off the top of my head, and then select Weeks Hall. All campus buildings will usually appear automatically once you start typing their name, so that's kind of handy. Whoa. Okay. You can also include locations that aren't on campus, which is really nice. So we've had events at, I think, the Overture Center, so I went ahead and have used that and just typed it in and added it. Next, you can include some contact information if you'd like to. Again, this is totally optional, but it's helpful if people know who to contact with questions. Then the very last box is this tags box, and this is pretty important as well. I've set up some feeds that will basically take events that are tagged a certain way. So for example, we have an Association for Women Geoscientists feed that includes only events that are tagged with AWG. So if I'm setting up an AWG event, such as our general meeting next week, I'll just add the tag AWG, click that, add, and now it's tagged that way, and my feed will automatically draw that event and add it to the feed. That's really handy if you're a part of a club. So if you're in like AAPG, I would suggest using that as a tag, or if you're in GeoPath or GGSA or undergraduate Geo Club, tag those a specific way, and we can set up a feed for you to include like on your web page, and then people can see exactly what events are going on in your organization. Then you'll want to include, any of the suggested tags, or you can search, like if I'm setting up a week's lecture, for example, I'll usually add like lectures as a tag, just so the entire campus can see that, oh, there's a lecture happening in the geoscience department. That's pretty much it. You'll just click save, and it'll automatically end up in your events database. And as you can see, we have a whole bunch of events already in there. And it usually takes about 24 hours for events to appear on the feed. These actually go, I believe, through the comms department, and they will do some light editing to the description, and especially if it's a public event, they'll definitely double check it and make sure that it's appropriate for today.wisc.edu. So it usually just takes a little bit of time for it to appear. So you'll want to leave some time in advance to add these events to your feed, especially if you've got events coming up quickly. Let's see, what else do I want to say? I'll show you what feeds look like. So if you go up to Manage My, you can click Feeds, and you'll see that I've set up a number of feeds here. We have the main feed, which includes all events submitted by our department. I set up an additional Department of Geoscience feed, and the reason I did that is because there's some events happening across campus that are actually very relevant to our department. So let's see if I want to see all 23 events. Yeah, so at the moment, these are just our week's lectures and some alumni receptions. But previously there was an event, Steve Myers was participating in an event that was actually already posted on the events database, so I just simply added that to our department feed. So that's why that exists. I've set up GGSA, AWG, GeoPath, AAPG. I have a few more to add here. And if you haven't put any events in with those tags, I can't set up your feed yet, so let me know when you start using tags, and I can add the tags to automatically be filtered on your feed. So like you can see here, nothing has been tagged with GeoPath, so there are no filters set. But once you've tagged something as GeoPath, I can set up a filter for you. Here on AWG, you can see the way this works. We have one event currently in the feed. That's our AWG general meeting next week. And the current filter is to include all events tagged AWG. So those will all be added automatically. So I'm happy to set that up for you. One really nice thing about this is, as somebody who can submit events, you can access all of these feeds. You can decide, I would like to have AWG as its own calendar in my Apple Calendar, for example. Let's see if this will load. Yeah, okay, so if I click iCal, it's going to automatically want to import that into like my Google Calendar, etc. Or I could create a new calendar for it if I want to. So that's kind of handy. Yeah, that's essentially it. You can also go in here and edit your locations, add places that you plan to use regularly. As you can see, AB20 gets a lot of use. We have 13 events coming up in AB20. Yeah, and that's essentially it. If you have any questions about how this works, feel free to email me at adjones2@wisc.edu, or just ask me if you run into me in the hall. I hope this was helpful, and if you need any additional help, let me know. Thanks.